Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Clinch. Today we have just myself and Keith Robert on the show. Chicken Parm is on his honeymoon, getting saucy.
The guy comes out. He gets announced that he's full time. He's already taking vacation time.
Yeah,
What a life!
for a honeymoon. I mean, how important is it? Come on. All right, we're going to hop just right on into the speed bag rounds for the prelims for UFC 204, the early prelims. First fight on it, Leonardo Santos wins by decision over Adriano Martins. I fell asleep. What do you got, Keith?
Yeah, I know we wanted to get right into this fight because of how exciting it was. Yeah, it was a crazy, weird fight. You had two Brazilians fighting each other in England to kick off a fight card. The sad thing is, actually, both guys are pretty talented, and both guys are getting close to a top 15, top 20 rankings. And what an awful fight! They
were so hesitant, both of them.
Yeah, I think it was a matter of them both being very cautious because of the other guy's ground skills, so it turned into a really sloppy kickboxing match. And I scored it a really weird scoring. I scored it 30-28 for Martins. I thought he won the last two rounds. I scored the first round 10-10. There was such a lack of action. I went the 10-10 round. So I know I went to MMA decisions. 8 judges scored it for Martins. 6 judges scored it for Santos, and 4 scored a draw. Yeah, really powerful performance for both guys.
Yeah, I mean, you just want to see one of the guys go after it, and it seems like neither of them did. Like you said, both extra cautious, and wasn't a very fan-friendly fight at all. We can hop into there was only 2 fights on the early prelims on the Fight Pass, but next one was Mike Perry versus Danny Roberts. This is a fight that I was actually looking forward to almost when I saw it on the card. Mike Perry, he's a powerhouse. He can be kind of a I don't know how I want to put this. I don't want to oversell him.
Controversial.
I don't want to oversell him, but he's 9-0 in his career. He's got a ton of power. He'll be an exciting guy to watch. And Danny Roberts isn't a bad fighter himself. I also like Danny Roberts. He won in April over Dominique Steele, and I thought that was a great fight. It was actually one fight of the night at UFC 197.
Yeah, I was excited for this fight. This fight was complete opposite of the first fight. This fight was fantastic. It lives up to the hype. Both guys are pretty good name prospects. They were throwing bombs at each other. They were landing high kicks, left hooks, right hooks. They were just going at it. Both guys were bloodied up. Danny Roberts at the end looked like a Jason or Freddy Krueger movie. His face was batted up. Perry is really good, especially in the pocket. When he gets in that range, he really lands good shots. Perry obviously is making a name for himself inside the octagon, also making a name for himself outside the octagon. Got into some controversial comments, some racist comments towards his last opponent, some homophobic comments towards another fighter. But that shouldn't overshadow the kind of fighter he is. He's really good. I mean, he's undefeated right now. He's 2-0 in the UFC. He beat Hung-Gu Lim that he took the fight on short notice, got a knockout win against him in the first round, and then followed up with a win against Roberts, another pretty good prospects, in Roberts' hometown in a back-and-forth fight. So Perry's exciting.
I agree. And, I think these two will meet again down the line. Somewhere down the road, I think there's a good chance that they end up meeting again, having another fight down the road.
Yeah, I mean, this fight was definitely fight of the night. I mean, I know a lot of people who didn't view into the Fight Pass would probably call it visiting Henderson fight, but this fight was much better than that one. This fight, I honestly could say that, not that this would win Fight of the Year, but this actually had the making of a Fight of the Year. It was that good.
All right, then we'll hop into the Fox Sports 1 prelims. Mark Diakese winning over Lucas Sayuski. I'm so bad with these damn names. Dude, I was going through, I looked at this fight in particular. I'm like, this is the one I butcher.
Yeah,
Um,
not the easiest name. Mark Daikizi versus Lucas Sajewski. I wrote it down so I could try. Sajewski or whatever.
Digesky.
I read it down.
Digesky.
Yeah, I mean, Sajewski is not really that big a prospect. He's more of a filler, but Daikizi is a complete opposite. He is a true blue chip prospect, probably the biggest prospect in Great Britain right now. And he had a moment right in the beginning when he came out and got taken down. But once he got it back to his feet, he's fantastic. He's a super athlete. He's got fantastic speed. His hands are fast. His kicks are fast. And you saw at one point when he reversed it and he had this humongous slam, one of the best slams you'll ever see.
Oh, that was a great slam.
Yeah, I gasped for a second, hoping the guy wouldn't land on his head because that was like some WWF Undertaker.
I flinched a little.
Shit.
I flinched a little.
Yeah, I mean, Sajewski took this fight on short notice. This is kind of what you're supposed to do to a guy who's just a filler on short notice. I like Daikizi. He's already saying that in a few years he'll be the champion. So I like his attitude. Yeah, this guy is legit.
It's definitely a fun guy to watch. Hell of a way to make his debut, even if it was against a guy on short notice. We'll hop into Leon Edwards winning by decision over Albert Tumanov. And boy, dude, Tumanov, his wrestling is bad. It was exposed. It was exposed against Gunnar Nelson and exposed again against Leon Edwards. If he wants to continue rising in the UFC, he needs to go back to the drawing board and get that worked out.
Yeah, Albert Tumanov is a guy that had a lot of hype not too long ago. He had some big wins, one including two fights ago against Lorenz Larking. A lot of guys were thinking that this guy was actually going to be a title contender, myself included. Yeah, he really has some holes in the grappling game. And I think a part of this was I slept on Leon Edwards. I slept on his ground game. I thought he was more known as just as a kickboxer. But his ground game was pretty good. He had some nice takedowns, scrambles, got the submission. I'm surprised about how good Leon Edwards is. And maybe this was this obviously was the best fight of his career. Hopefully this is a building block for things to come because that after when Michael Bisping retires, there's not much left coming out of England. So the two guys we saw back to back with Leon Edwards and Mark Daikizi, maybe these guys can step up and continue to carry that English banner and keep MMA thriving in England.
Right. And one thing I wanted to add about Edwards, you said that you didn't notice how well he did with his grappling. With a nickname like Rocky, you don't expect him. You don't expect him to grapple. It was like, you got Tumanov, the big powerhouse, versus a guy named Rocky. What does that make you think of?
Well, his last fight, he had Dominic Steele, another guy who's not great at anything, but not bad anywhere, and he kind of won in the ground there too. I kind of didn't expect him to win the ground against Tumanov, but wow, he Tumanov's wrestling makes look like Chael Sanderson, Chael Sanderson.
It was Dominic Waters, not Steele. Dominic
Waters. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we brought up Steele earlier, so let's see where you're coming from.
Wow.
All right, then we go on to next fight on the card: Damian Stasiak winning over Davey Grant by submission. What were your thoughts there, Keith?
I thought this fight should have been the first fight on the night. I understand why it wasn't because of Davey Grant being from Great Britain. They want to put him a little higher on. Neither of these guys are really UFC caliber fighters. They're both filler guys. Obviously, the UFC made the right decision and buried the Santos Martins fight. But on paper, you would have thought this would have been the opening fight. Basically, just a style matchup of striker versus grappler. Davey Grant won the feat, and he won it really easily. I thought he was dominant in the fight, except when it hit the ground. When it hit the ground, it was all Stasiak. Stasiak had a couple reversals, a couple near submissions, and there was a point where I thought Grant was about to finish off the fight and get to the decision. and he stayed too long in the guard of Stasiak. Stasiak set up a beautiful arm bar, which is the old school MMA because the level of jiu-jitsu of these guys, it's so well now that you don't see these arm bars from guard or anything anymore. So it kind of felt like an old school feeling where, Dan Severn is bashing up on Hoist Gracie, and Hoist Gracie throws up a triangle choke and gets him. You don't see that a lot in MMA anymore. So it was kind of fun to see, especially a nice comeback too.
All right, and then we'll move on to Yuri Alcantara, winning over Brad Pickett by submission. Alcantara, getting back in the win column after that fight against Rivera that kind of put Rivera on the map. Pickett, he is what he is. He's over the hill. His best days are behind him. Alcantara uses as, a night to get himself back on track. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, I'll start with Brad Pickett. He announced that he was retiring after this fight. Definitely the way to do it. He's going out in his hometown or his home country, I should say. He lost 4 of his last 5 fights in the UFC. Arguably, you could say he should have lost 5 of his last 5. He was a pretty good fighter at one point. Never a title contender, but a solid mid card guy. One of the most deceiving nicknames called Brad One Punch Pickett, where he was never really known for his stand up. He was actually more of a grappler, or at least that was the best part of his game. But yeah, Yuri Alcantara, he is what he is. He's might be able to crack that top 15 of the division. He's pretty talented. He's still got a couple good years left in him. He looked great in this fight. It was an absolute whitewashing. He hurt Brad Pickett on the feet before he ended up getting a scramble, setting up a beautiful triangle. So it was a really good fight for him. I'm still not sold on him, but he did open my eyes a little bit. As I said, Brad Pickett is done, but this was an absolute whitewashing. So time to reevaluate him.
Agreed. And with that, we can move on to the main card. Mirsad Bektic winning over Russell Doan by submission in the first round. Bektic looked to be everything as advertised.
Yeah, Bektic's legit. Like we were talking about Jakizi earlier about being a blue chip prospect, and Bektic is the same thing. It was really cool to see 2 prospects that have tons of hypes, 2 prospects that people are saying are future title contenders. Starting off with Doan. Doan took this fight at 5 days' notice. Doan moved up in weight class. Doan has lost
4 in a row.
2 out of 6 fights in the UFC. I think he lost. This was his 4th loss in a row. So take it with a grain of salt of what Bektic showed. You expected this is probably the easiest fight in the entire card to pick. But Bektic showed all his tools. He has very good hands, very accurate striking. He uses and kicks well, and I love he showed his wrestling too with a beautiful blast double. He's big for the weight class. I think this guy is a legit threat for title contention. Now, we say that about prospects that don't make it all the time, but right now there's a lot of good prospects in MMA. Guys like Cody Garbrandt, Thomas Almeida. These guys have kind of moved out of the prospects reach until contenders, and I think Bektic, a few more fights and he'll be the same thing. He'll be a true contender to that 145-pound title.
Definitely see it. Everything seems to be lining up for him. You praised his wrestling a little bit. I wanted to throw in there 100% takedown defense so far in the UFC for him. And he was 4 for 6 on his takedowns in that fight. So his wrestling is definitely a strong suit. And his striking is definitely not so bad itself. So I definitely say it. He's, like you said, a blue chip guy. And I'm looking forward to seeing more out of him.
And he has a kill spirit. You saw when he had Don't Hurt, he went in for the kill.
Yes.
This guy's legit. And he's pretty good on the mic. He was kind of trash talking a little bit, asking for higher level fights, basically saying I should be in the top 15.
Yeah, that's almost something that I feel like a lot of fighters feel like they have to do that now. You know, they have to sell themselves, and with the blueprint that Connor put out there, you know, everyone's kind of trying to do that. Maybe not to the same level, but there's definitely some merit to being able to, you know, speak well, get people involved with your mouth, and rising up in the ranks.
Yeah, I mean, gone are the days where guys fought each other and they said respectful things about each other. And I remember UFC 43. Chuck Liddell fought Randy Couture, two legends in the sport. It was their first time they were fighting, and I remember in the pre-talk, you had two guys, and neither guys were known for having grudges with people, talking junk. That old school martial arts mentality. Chuck Liddell said, fighting Randy Couture, he says, that means something to me. As in, like, I respect that guy so much. It's an honor to fight him. That's not what the UFC wants, because that doesn't draw in the casual fans.
Right.
If you go back, Tito Ortiz was like kind of the first true trash talker, and he sold. Tito Ortiz kept the sport alive with his trash talking to the Lions Den, Guy Metzger, Frank Shamrock, Ken Shamrock, Jerry Bolander, those guys, and the feuds he had with them. Then later on they get Chael Sonnen. Look how Chael Sonnen was I wouldn't say a journeyman, but he was around in the sport a very long time and really didn't make waves. His trash talk kind of went with his peak of MMA. He kind of hit this time where he kind of put it all together. But he talked himself into bigger fights than he would have got. I mean, he got that fight with John Jones that he didn't deserve. And that got him a big payday. And it's why now, obviously Conor McGregor talks. He's a huge star. But it's now why everybody is calling out Conor McGregor. I saw Dana White was on UFC Tonight the other night. And he was saying that. He's like, everybody wants to fight. Dominic Cruz is now calling out. Dominic Cruz is saying, I'll fight him at I'll fight him at 155. That he'll go up 20 pounds to fight him. Because that's the big payday. I mean,
yeah.
One of the most pathetic things. All right, let's back it up. So going. I know we're way off topic, but we're supposed to be talking about Bektik. But one of the things that at the last press conference that got so much buzz was Jeremy Stevens and calling out Conor McGregor. Well, you're fighting, you're probably getting 25,000 to fight, 25,000 to show. So he's gonna get that huge payday. Nate Diaz is set for life now. And Conor McGregor knows this, and he's saying it. These guys are all bummed. They're all calling me out because they want the huge payday. I loved when he said to Rafael Dos Anjos, like, we did it. We got the big payday. So that's why you're seeing a lot more of these feuds that you really wouldn't have. Dustin Poirier and Michael Johnson having a feud, and different things like that, because they're trying to get more eyeballs. Unfortunately, Jones Cormier, their feud. If they didn't have a feud, they didn't have the fight at the press conference. Their pay-per-view buys would have been close to 1 million.
Definitely a good point. We can hop in now to Stefan Struve versus Daniel Omeliankazik. I don't know. Danny O.
Yeah. Stefan Struve versus Daniel Omelianchuk. I tried getting that one. I mean, this is all about Struve. Struve is really aggravating. I remember I talked about Martin Kampmann a few shows back, saying he has all the tools, but you never really know why he doesn't live up to it. Stefan Struve is the same thing. He has all the tools. He has all the tools to be the heavyweight champion. In fact, he's actually beat the heavyweight champion. He's knocked the heavyweight champion out. The only guy to do it. Obviously, he has the longest range in the history of the UFC. He's got, he's 7 feet tall. He's got long arms, long legs. Actually, I should go back. Sammy Schilt was also 7 feet. I don't know who had the longer range, but anyways, you get the point. He's got historically long range, long legs. He's got very deceiving power. He knocked out Stipe Miocic. He dropped Antonio Silva, things like that. And he's actually really good in the clinch. He gets in close and he can hit guys with elbows and knees. When he pulls down on the head, that knee comes up quick because of his long range. A lot of guys used to having being able to have a guy be able to flick the leg up that easily. And obviously, if he gets taken to his back, his best part of his game is actually on his back, his jiu-jitsu game. So he has tons of tools, but he doesn't have. To me, he doesn't have a great fight IQ. He fights. He either has to be all the way out where he can use his range, or all the way in where he can use his clinch. But he actually fights in that mid range a lot. Which in this fight, I actually thought he was doing the same thing. He was given O'Malleychuk chances to land the overhand right, and he also O'Malleychuk, the time he did have offense was in that mid range. So I don't know if it's Struff needs to get with a better team, or what. Because I mean, you go back to the Roy Nelson when he got knocked out by Roy Nelson. He got knocked out by Roy Nelson because he kept Roy Nelson in that mid range. The good thing about this guy is he's still only 28 years old. He has like 40 fights, and he's still only 28 years old. And heavyweight is actually that one division where guys can last for a lot longer than the other weight classes. So we might be only starting to see Stefan Struff's prime. Maybe, hopefully, this will be springboard. 2 fights, 2 wins in a row. Hopefully, he'll finally start living up to the hype. What do you think?
With Struve, the main thing that jumps out to you is the height. Obviously, it's like his opponent needs to Super Mario jump to reach his chin. But I think as good as his submissions are, as his ground game is, I think it works against him a little bit because of his height. I mean, I saw him going for a rear naked at one point during this fight. I forget which round it was in, and like I'm looking at how he's behind the guy, and usually when they're locking that in, their arms are up here, and they're wrenching from here. He's so much taller than everybody. His arms are down here, and he's kind of like trying to squeeze at a different angle. I'm not sure if that's something that anybody else is really noticing, anything that really matters, but it's something that I'm seeing. Like it's not like the natural place that guys are when they're trying to lock things in.
One thing I have noticed is that he can be a little too comfortable on his back. You saw that in the Alistair Overeem fight. Overeem was throwing shots at him, and he was staying. He wasn't trying to scramble back to his feet. And then eventually Overeem was able to posture all the way up and land a bomb and knock him out. So that's obviously an area of his game that he has to change. If being heavyweight's really open. Other than to me, there's like a top 3 tier of obviously Miocic, Cain Velasquez, a Verdum winner. That are really, after the Verdum Cain Velasquez winner, there really isn't a next contender like many other weight classes have lined up. Go on a little run. Perhaps beat a Josh Barnett or Andre Arlovski, and then maybe get a move up and fight maybe Mark Hunt if Mark Hunt returns. It's not too long that he could be fighting for the title. I mean, you got a guy like Roy Nelson who's talking about a title fight. So then that means Struff isn't that far off.
All right, and from that we can move on to Jimmy Manua winning over Vince St. Preux. This was a huge letdown for OSP, in my opinion. He came off of the fight with Jones where, it wasn't flashy or anything, but he didn't get himself hurt. And in this fight, he comes in and does the opposite. The thing that jumped out to me, it almost looked like he didn't want to be there. I don't know if he was just tired because, it's 4 o'clock in the morning or whatever the hell it was there. I don't know if he was fatigued or if he was just out of shape, but he looked like he didn't want to be there. And Manua made him pay for it.
Yeah, I think it was something like 3:30 or 4:30 in the morning when he was fighting. Fighting overseas, there has been times where guys, that time change has affected them. But yeah, to me, I actually thought, and maybe I underestimated Manoa. I thought this was going to be an easy fight for St. Preux. I thought St. Preux he's a better athlete. He's bigger. He's stronger. Manoa was pretty small for the weight class. He probably could make middleweight. He's younger. He said he's a better athlete. He's won against higher competition. Most of Jimmy Manua's wins have been against B and C level fighters. When he has gone against A level fighters, Liston, Anthony Rumble Johnson, he's been absolutely dominated, smoked, taken out easily. So I expected St. Preux. You know, a lot of guys they fight like one of the best guys like John Jones. Even though he lost, there was moments that he was competitive. I actually thought that was a good thing for his career, something that he could springboard off of. The experience of being in a main event, fighting, you know, arguably the best fight ever, or, you know, at least in the discussion. But he did not look good. I've always viewed Jimmy Manuwa as a kind of decent athlete, brawler, but with a weak chin. And I mishandled that. He made adjustments. You know, won the first round, but Manuwa made adjustments in the second round, and it seemed like St. Preux started slowing down, Manuwa just started opening up. He landed a nice overhand right that had St. Preux hurt. And the best part of the game was that he didn't rush into it. He kind of still set up. He wasn't going all out throwing his shots. He was kind of setting up, waiting, and then the left hook. Opening the game, he unloaded that left hook. And to me, this was the best performance of Jimmy Manuwa's career. I think I know me and you both talked. I think this was he was the most impressive fighter on the card. I thought he had the best performance. I would have made him my fighter of the week. And I'm wondering, you know, is Manuwa finally living up to the hype? I mean, this guy not too long ago was pretty hyped. People thought he was a contender. I didn't see it. But I do admit that I tend to lower rank a lot of European fighters. But you know, he's 36 years old. I wonder how much life he has left. But maybe he's having a late career resurgence. I'm sure this is definitely going to get him in the Sports Talk top 10 now. And I really would like to see what they match him up with. I mean, I think a matchup against Glover Teixeira, both coming from boxing styles, I think that'd be a great matchup. What do you think?
That would be a great matchup. Like you said, you had it as your performance of the night. I think he did the most for his career out of anybody on the card. I think this win meant more to him than anyone else is on the card. I can definitely see him getting into the top 10 in the Sports Talk rankings. If he's not, I'll be having a word with everybody who puts this together. So we'll get a little debate going.
They should be out.
What's that?
They should be out in the next couple days, so we'll see.
All right. Well, I'm watching. But like you said, maybe we were too harsh on him. His two losses were to Alexander Gustafsson and Rumble Johnson. You know, kind of the cream of the crop in the division.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, Alexander Gustafsson, his length and his range is always a tough opponent for anybody. And Rumble Johnson is just an animal. He's scary. I think he's the scariest guy in all MMA. About Jimmy Manuwa is he never beat top talent. I mean, he beat guys like Ryan Jimmo. God, unfortunately, who's passed away now. Guys like that. He never had that step up in competition and won. Obviously, this is the best win of his career. So, you know, if he's not that top 5, but he's a lower top 10 guy, I mean, you can still make a lot of money. There's still exciting fights. Ryan Bader is a guy. Glover Teixeira, who I already said. Shogun, they were supposed to fight a while ago that fell through. Hell, if John Jones returns and he needs a warm-up fight, Jimmy Manuwa would be an interesting matchup.
I agree with that. I mean, I'd watch him against pretty much anybody at this point. No, Belfort. It is what it is. You know, Belfort's over the hill. I had him in. I'm sure you'll bring it up. I had him in DraftKings and in the Pick'em leagues just because I'm so far behind. I had to do something that nobody else was doing. And that came up and bit me right in the ass. But, yeah, I mean, you look at the numbers, total strikes 65-9. There's no offense from Belfort.
Vitor, I mean, he's old now. I didn't write down his age. I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's been in the UFC since he was 19 years old. He's been in for, I think, UFC 12 might have been his debut. We're on UFC 205 coming up. So he's been in forever. He's been in for
He's
almost 20 years now.
39 years old.
39 years old. I mean, being 39 years old, I mean, not everyone's going to be Dan Henderson and can reach the, 46, Randy Couture, those guys. Most guys by mid-30s, they're pretty much done. I mean, you take Fedor. Fedor is a guy that is one of the greatest ever, and he started falling off probably about age 32, 33. So for Vitor to be going at, fighting in, against top 10 guys at 39 years old, that's impressive. But, I mean, let's just be honest. Non-TRT Vitor Belfort is not the same. He's a shell of the fighter he used to be. But part of that, and obviously I think the testosterone boost is a big reason why he had a big resurgence in his career. But Vitor's had moments in his entire career where he's been up and down. This old, to people who've been fans for a long time, it's always they call the old Vitor versus the new Vitor, and then he's had moments where he's been one or the other. Vitor is the hardest guy to pick against because you never know what's going to show up. He has moments where he just comes in like Vanderlei Silva and just absolute blasts the guys, and then then he fights Kazushi Sakuraba, who probably an easier matchup for him, and he just does nothing and gets shut down, similar to this fight. So, I hear the rumors are that Vitor Belfort is retiring. This is the last we'll see of him. And it's about time. He's made a lot of money. He's married to a celebrity supermodel. He's been in the fight game forever. He's, a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. So I'm kind of hoping that this is the last we see of him. I hope he doesn't do a Bellator run and fights Chael Sonnen and Tito Ortiz, and could he do that? Probably. Hopefully he doesn't. Going on to Gegard Mousasi, that's really who we should be talking about. Mousasi, taking away the Uriah Hall moment where he was dominating a fight and got his head kicked off. Gegard Mousasi he has all the tools. He's one of these guys where I don't want to say that he's great at nothing. A lot of times people say, guys good at everything, we're great at nothing. And I wouldn't say Gegard is great. I would put him in whatever's in between good and great. He's in that very good. He's very good at everything.
Right.
He has a great jab. He really establishes the grab right. He keeps guys at the end of his punches, which is the best part of the game. And a thing that he doesn't he has little deceiving power, which he dropped Vitor. But the best part of his game that he doesn't really get credit for is how slick he is on the ground. Just the little nuances. He cut right through Vitor's guard, and when he got to the mount, forget it. He sticks. He keeps tight to the body. I would like to see him, move up in competition, fight better guys. I've been hearing a lot of people saying Derek Brunson versus Robert Whittaker fight. I think that'd be a great fight. Gegard Mousasi, the thing about this guy, he's still only 31 years old. He's had 46 fights. He's only 31. So we might not even see the prime of this guy yet. A lot of guys develop.
I definitely thought he was older than that. I definitely thought he was older than that. I did not realize he's only 31. His name's been around forever.
Well, he's been wrestling. I mean, he's been fighting forever, and he's got 46 fights. So it seems like we've been seeing this guy. But yeah, he's only 31. I looked it up because I remember him being younger, a lot younger than I expected when I saw one of his other fights recently. I think they did the tail of tape, and I was like, wow, Gegard Mousasi, was 30, 31 years old. Like I expected. He feels like he should be on the back nine of his career.
All right. After that, we'll hop into the main event. Michael Bisping winning by decision over Dan Henderson. People are saying it's controversial. I disagree. Sure, Bisping took a hell of a lot more damage, but that's not how these fights are scored, and you have to remind people of that a lot. Personally, I gave Henderson rounds 1 and 5. I gave Bisping 2 through 4. And honestly, there's a few people talking about the first round could have been 10-8, but one of those middle rounds, I forget if it was the third or the fourth, Henderson took the round off completely, and that could have been a 10-8. So,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
for every argument I'm saying, there's a simple counter argument. Um, Bisping kind of, well, not kind of, should have performed a lot better than he did. You saw Henderson looking for one punch the entire fight, looking for his overhand right the entire fight. And if that's the only thing you have to defend it. I mean, don't keep opening yourself up to it, because he got hit with it probably about 6 or 7 times. 2 of them were brutal.
Yeah. 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 I don't think it's controversial either. I scored a 49-46 for Bisbee. I scored him around 2 through 5. I know there's a lot of people who gave Henderson the second round because he dropped him with a punch. I've rewatched that punch many times. It is not as good as people think it is. It was more of, I mean, he got him good, but Bisbee was also a little more off balanced. Bisbee won 4.5 minutes of that round and lost 30 seconds. And it wasn't like the first round where Henderson dropped him and then started landing big shots afterwards. Bisbee immediately got him in guard. They covered up, and Henderson just rode him out for the last 30 seconds with pretty much no ground and pound. So it really comes down to, here's my thing, plain and simple. It goes down to the same. It's very similar to the Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor second round. One guy landed the bigger shots, one guy landed the more shots. And it really kind of comes down to how you score it. I scored which kind of makes me kind of sound like a hypocrite, because I scored the second round for Conor McGregor. I thought he landed more. He dropped him twice. He was a little more. It was about
There was more than
3 minutes worth of offense.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that kind of same thing, whether volume. Bisping, he outstruck him 33-10 in significant strikes in that round. So, yeah, I scored it. I know there's some people scoring the 5th round for Henderson.